Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So today I want to feature a story that's kind of intriguing to me. I just had to laugh when I saw it. I wasn't laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's kind of ironic to me. Because, when you deal with Brazil, you always hear about this thing about people are supposed to be proud that they have mixed race ancestry. I'm a little bit of this, a little bit of that. My father was part Indian and part black, and my mother was part European and part Native American, and I got a splash of Japanese in my blood. People always do this. So Brazil has been said for years that it's proud of its mixing, and I've always looked at it from after having read thousands of comments over the years, read the reports of racism coming out of the country, hearing about racism within mixed race families. People automatically assume that because people marry, have relationships, and have children across racial lines, that this problem doesn't exist. But this is absolutely not true. Too many stories. There was a lady who was doing some research on this a few years ago. I think her dissertation turned into a book, and she just documented with just numerous families that have this racial mixture in their families, and they just talk about how the kids suffer dramatically from the racism from the white side of the family. So people should know this by now. Just because there's mixing going on, it doesn't mean that whiteness isn't considered the standard for which the society will be judged. And Brazil is just a perfect example of that. Brazil, in a country where the vast majority of people have some degree of racial mixture, but yet it is the blonde that's still considered to be at the top of the hierarchy if we talk about race. So I want to talk about how this story today kind of fits into that narrative that I just, what I just painted. This is about a social media influencer and her experiences after people saw what her child looked like. So let's get into this article, because Brazil, it's crazy some of the stuff you hear coming out of Brazil, because people around the world, it's changing now because of social networks, but for many years people didn't believe that Brazil had this racial problem, right? Today's video is called "He Wasn't Born White Like Me." Social influencer speaks out against racist comments she's received about her 2-month-old son. Okay, so what's this story all about? Let's get directly into this. So today's info is courtesy of Amazonas Atual and the Terra website. Okay, he wasn't born like me. Social influencer speaks out against racist comments she's received about her 2-month-old son. So, blonde, clearly white woman you have here, and then here you have her son, who is fair skinned as well. He has dark hair, but some people could argue like his face doesn't look like somebody that will be considered white in Brazil, even in a country like Brazil. And the reason why I believe this is important is because Brazilians scrutinize features, physical features. They scrutinize how straight, how curly your hair is. They scrutinize your nose, the shape of the nose, the shape of the mouth, shape of the lips. And they come to these conclusions because for years, Brazilians have tried to avoid having any association with blackness. I mean, let's understand this country for years, after having 350 years of enslaved Africans and descendants of Africans, during a regime of slavery, after that, they created a law that says no more Africans can immigrate to Brazil. Now, that law was in force for a number of years. Of course, Africans, Haitians, and all sorts of other people are coming into Brazil now. But the idea was Brazil received the most Africans that were enslaved in the West. They received between 4 and 5 million Africans. That is like anywhere from 9 to 12 times more than the Africans that were sent to the United States. So after slavery ended, it was like, we have enough black people here. We don't want any more Africans coming into this country. So they barred Africans from coming into the country for a while at the same time, they opened up Brazil's doors for 4 to 5 million European immigrants to come into the country. And what they were practicing, what was called embranquecimento, the idea of not only let's even up the white and black population, let's promote the idea of mixing so that within a few generations, the black brown population will eventually disappear. And so it's always been said that, Brazil has this racial fluidity. It's not just black and white like it is in the United States. But what I've come to argue, and I, let me be clear, I don't necessarily consider all mixed people in Brazil to be black. I've had to come off of that ideology myself because there are simply too many people in Brazil who you just can't define as black or white or black and Indian or whatever you want to say. But there is a parcel of the mixed population that is definitively black, and I'll say that I can't define who is considered black and who is not. That's going to be up to the population to decide. That is going to be on the identity of the person. What is this boy going to identify as when he grows up? That's going to be his personal decision. But all I'm saying is that it's not, people in Brazil tend to look at it like the closer you are to whiteness. If you're close enough to whiteness, okay, we can tell that you're not like as white as an American, but you'll be white enough to pass in Brazil, right? But when I see stories like this and people make comments about the facial features or the color or the hair of a particular Brazilian, it says to me like, well, as much as you say Brazilians don't go by the one drop rule, why would people make comments about this baby? If it wasn't an issue about what color the baby is, if everybody's mixed here, or to me, I've always said this, mixing is not something that they're necessarily proud of. They might say that on the outside, but I feel like it's a necessary step to get to the whiteness that everybody wants. So when you make comments about a baby and what he looks like if Brazil doesn't have this race problem, why are they scrutinizing what this baby looks like? It's because the baby does not fit into the white standard of the mother that gave birth to him. Let's take a look at what she said, because this is just a contradiction that I have that I see when I'm dealing with Brazil. So let's get into this story. This woman says, since the birth of my child, my son, I've been getting a lot of nasty comments. Okay. So last week, the entrepreneur and influencer, Julie Chiavi, posted a video on her Instagram profile, which is pinned, in which she talks about the comments she receives via direct messages about her son's color, unlike her, who is white. She has blonde hair, blue eyes, and Pedro, her 2-month-old son that's shown in this picture here, he has brown eyes, light brown skin, and hair. One comment left by someone online says, I think the baby was switched. So listen to what that comment says, like looking at the difference between what the mother looks like and what the baby looks like. And one could say that, okay, they're both fair skinned, but we know how it tends to be with light skinned people of African descent. That undertone shows a brownness in this baby's color that his mother does not have. So people are commenting on that. Now, if this wasn't a problem, then why are people making an issue of what this baby's color looks like or what the baby's color is and the features? Okay. The contradiction of how people see race in Brazil is things like this that I point out that says, well, okay, all these years you've talked about you don't have a one drop rule. And why are you defining this baby this way? And why are you making fun of what the baby looks like? But, well, it's absolutely because the mother is white and blonde. So you expect her to produce another baby along that same phenotype. So in an interview, Julia said the following. Since my son's birth, I've been getting a lot of nasty comments. There were so many that I ended up not remembering all of them. But I remember one specifically of a girl who commented in person. It was not even on the internet, that my son could have been born white like me with light eyes. That for me was the worst comment, she told Came magazine. In the caption of a post in which she vented about her frustration, Chiavi wrote, enough. I don't accept anyone saying unnecessary things about my son. The world is already full of problems for some to worry about color or whose son he is. It's enough to have to read and listen to unnecessary and useless things out here. Go pray for those in need and for yourselves. Stop wasting time on what you don't add to your life. And thank you to everyone who is with me, always giving a lot of support and love to us. Again, so this is Julia and her 2-month-old son, Pedro, clearly has fair skin. But again, the undertone, the facial features, clearly people are telling her that's a black baby. Now, you might call the baby Pardo, you might call the baby mixed, but the point is, and I've always said this, you can call a person mixed, but in a world where the standard continues to be whiteness in terms of beauty, intelligence, and power, when a person has non-European ancestry, that is what makes them other. Now, clearly, I accept the fact that there are Pardos, okay? I'm not dismissing that. But what I'm saying is whether you call this baby brown, pardo, or preto, negro, black, people are already going in on this 2 month old baby saying, you don't look like your mama. They're not going to say that he's not white, but basically that's what they are saying. So again, this is Brazil for you. According to her, some people have questioned why the child does not have the skin color similar to her mother or the father. Now, the father is another question, and I'm going to get to that. She continues, they sent comments about my son's features. I've heard people saying that he could be the neighbor's son, jokingly. So they're saying, like, okay, so this white woman had an affair with the next door neighbor. You know, it's kind of like a common running joke in Brazil. There was actually a scene in the City of God movie years ago that presented this guy, his wife was cheating on him, and he ended up killing his wife, right? So anyway, continuing. These are really unnecessary comments that got me very upset, she said. Julia repudiates all racist and offensive comments, and she says no mother deserves to see her child being the victim of hate attacks or any attack whatsoever. I am totally in favor of mothers taking action to try to contain any kind of evil. She, who works with the internet, has been the target of several offensive comments. She says, but when I came across a situation of prejudice with my son, it saddened me and upset me very much. It was really something that made me quite shocked to see people's meanness towards a baby, and I ended up exposing the situation to try to contain the mean comments I read in one way or another, explained the influencer. For Julia, the comments she received on social media and in person are scary. I keep imagining the pain that mothers feel even for going through worse situations than the ones I went through, she said. In order not to be shaken up anymore and not to dwell on these matters, I delete the comments. I block these people. Despite all of this, I still believe that there are good people who like us, who are there to see things I post daily of my son. So that's what keeps me going, she said. So this is a picture of the baby Pedro and his father. So, I'm not going to get into, okay, is he the father biologically? Because again, when you have mixed race ancestry, we all know that if it's a white family and all of a sudden a black baby pops up, there's several reasons that could happen. Some people believe, well, that woman cheated, on her husband, whatever. What if the woman, the mother in this story, or the father, what if they both have African ancestry, and then this baby pops up with certain African oriented features? It's not something that's impossible. So I couldn't get a really clear picture of what the father looks like because I'm curious to know. Well, maybe he takes after the father, because other people are insinuating like, oh, you must have been creeping with the next door neighbor or something. That's not really even what my point of covering this, going into this topic is. It's the reaction that people had to what this baby looked like compared to his mother. Now, I'm not saying that takes away from him being a mixed baby or whatever, but I've always said, in a world that's divided into people of color and then white, how is the baby going to be judged in the future? Is it going to be judged as a white baby, as a mixed baby? Anytime someone is, for years in the United States, people said, okay, well, we have this new mixed race category. You have the opportunity in the census to choose more than one racial category. But in the fine print, when they started accepting mixed race identity in the United States, it said in fine print, any person who chooses more than one race, they will be categorized according to the non-white partner in that relationship. Now that's the United States. I'm not saying that applies in Brazil, but Brazil for many years has tried to segregate itself, like they don't deal with race the same way the United States does. But when you scrutinize and pull back the curtain, you still see this. People, when you have a standard of whiteness, and so many people in Brazil are not at the top of that whiteness. Even the white population in Brazil is not considered necessarily white in the United States, Canada, or in places like Germany or in Western Europe. So Brazilians know this, and this is why they will adapt persons of mixed race into the white category, say, oh, you're white enough. But then when you see how they treated this baby, the comments they make for this baby, is that really true? Are they looking at it that way? Or are they realistically saying, you're Brazilian white, but you're not quite white? It's like Brazilians know this. Um, some years ago, I don't know if this guy's an anthropologist, but there was a book that came out called Nu e Vestido. And this guy, Alexander, forget his last name, Edmonds, he did a study on how Brazilians, plastic surgery in Brazil is a very popular procedure. And talking to these people who were going in to have these types of surgeries, they were going in there to fix their negroid nose or whatever. People would say, oh, well, my face looks like this because, I had some distant Indian ancestry. Oh, this nose, the slant in my eyes, that's because of the indigenous, influence in the family. So it's like people were going under the knife. They were having plastic surgery to get rid of those ethnic features. They wanted to get closer to whiteness, right? There was a story some years ago. It's on the blog. I have to cover that one day. But Brazilians who are going to sperm banks and trying to get, the sperm specimens of purely white men. Now, if race doesn't matter in Brazil, why do people go through so much of this in order to attain this certain level of whiteness? It is what it is. I mean, what do you think? Continuing. Clearly agitated by the types of comments she has read, Julia went on to reveal that, quote,
Falar
there
uma
are some
coisa um
people
pouco
sending
séria aqui
direct
com
messages
vocês,
talking about
rapidinho.
my
Tem
son's
algumas
color.
pessoas que estão me
Do
mandando
you
mensagem
realize that?
direto
I think
falando
it's
a respeito
absurd
da
that
cor do
these
meu filho.
people
Vocês têm noção
who
disso?
have so much evil
Simplesmente
in
ele é
their hearts are
perfeito, ele é
commenting on a
saudável, ele é a
child.
coisa mais linda.
He
E
was
eu acho um
born
absurdo essas
moreno.
pessoas que
Again,
têm
this term
tanta
moreno.
maldade no coração de
He
estar
wasn't born
comentando
white like
sobre
I
uma
am.
criança.
Sometimes
Meu
I'm even
filho, ele
afraid to
nasceu
post
moreno,
things
não
here because
nasceu
of
branco
how
como eu
mean
sou, não
people can
nasceu
be,
loiro,
said
nem doido,
Julia.
claro, porém
So
meu
we,
filho é
we're dealing with
lindo.
this term
E às
moreno
vezes eu
again. I
fico
just
até
did a
com
video
receio
on
de estar
this a couple
postando
of days
isso.
ago, this term moreno. And she's clearly recognizing that this baby is not white like she is. Now, she doesn't go as far as to say that her baby is black, but she does recognize that in the comments, there's this type of Brazilian racism going on that's judging her son. Well, this baby's not white like you. Okay, so what is he then? If they continue, I'll take action. I think it's very disrespectful. He's just a child. I'm not prejudiced against anyone, let alone color. Because I've had relationships with black people, said Julia, who is the ex of the popular funk singer Nego do Borel, who's seen in this picture. Now, this was funny because there's a few articles I had where I talked about this guy, Nego do Borel. And people, a lot of people said he's a palmitero. He's a man who just prefers white women. You always see him try to get with the whitest women he can find, right? This is taken from an article I did a few years ago. I think it was called Yes, We're All Down with the Swirl. Okay. You should check that article out one day. But I thought I recognized this woman when I saw her picture, and that's when I realized, oh, this is Nego do Bordel's ex-girlfriend. So this is them from the past. And like I said, I'm not going to get into who the baby's father is. She's in a relationship with a guy that the picture said there was a picture of the baby with the father. So I'm going to leave it there. All I'm saying, that's not what's really important to me. What's important is how people reacted to what this baby looked like. Okay. She intends to take haters to court. The influencer also says she will educate her son so that he can deal with criticism and prejudice without it affecting his psychological well being or self esteem. In addition, I think the main thing is that from now on, I educate him so that he respects all people, no exception, she concluded. Okay, so again, there are a lot of people out there who argue don't take away the mixed race identity of a large proportion of the Brazilian population. And I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying that it is very clear from how Brazilians see this that being black is something that you don't want to be. You want to escape that. And they just automatically assume because this woman has blonde hair and blue eyes that she's supposed to produce a baby who's as white as is just as white as her. And again, I ask if there's a problem with this miscegenation in Brazil, then why are people making such an issue out of what the baby looks like? He's not as white as his mother. He's a quote unquote moreno, right? Does that mean he's a throwback to somebody's African ancestry in the family? I don't know. That's not the point, and it's not for me to judge. I'm just saying the comment speaks volumes for how people look at color and race in Brazil. So anyway, Curious to know what your thoughts are on this particular article. Drop a comment in the comment section. Like this video, share this video. Consider subscribing to this channel. Click on that notification bell so you receive the next video when I put it up. And with that said, I'm going to end this video here and request that you come and check out the next video that I post.